Hi, I'm Dan Neer. Back in 1987, a somewhat younger John Anderson of Yes ruminated over the band that had been his life for 20 years.
It's a very complex band. It's made up of 5 very individual people, and musically we're still fighting. We're in there fighting. We're juggling with music, and we're not just laying back and playing our hits. We just keep trying to push the boundaries musically, and there's not too many of us left in this sort of realm of musicians, you know, and we're just honouring our musical growth, I suppose, because we're still in the business and we're still able to tour, and the people are still willing to come and see us.
And now, 13 years later, in the year 2000, Yes is still in business and people are still coming to see them. And we here at Up Close still get to put together these great shows about them. Welcome to the final in a 3-part series of the Jones Radio Network's Yes, Up Close.
You can fool yourself. You can cheat until you're blind. You can cut your heart. It can happen. You can touch your life. You can bring your soul alive. It can happen to you. It can happen to me. It can happen to everyone eventually.
It Can Happen from 1983's 90125. The sounds and songs on that album were colored by new member Trevor Rabin. 3 years later on Big Generator, Trevor took over some of the production as well. Here's John Anderson.
Trevor's taken hold of that whole story. I was very happy to do it in the 70s, but the 80s is really Trevor's little baby, and I love to hear the finished product because I don't have to spend those hours and hours that it takes to pull off a great production, and I believe Trevor's one of the great producers around. So the album does sound fresh to me, as did 90125.
Trevor Rabin.
They've always set precedents and blueprints for production ideas and coming up with new things, you know. And musically we worked very hard on it together. And I write most of the stuff, the music and the lyrics and stuff, but as far as putting some kind of cohesive picture together, that is an added responsibility, which kind of took a couple of years of my life, but I enjoyed it.
A bit of high voltage from the Big Generator. That was Rhythm of Love. John Anderson.
I think every time we go on tour or every time we make an album, there's an element of pain and a little bit of suffering that goes through that. I don't know why it does, but I know that it's just one of those things. You try to start an album and you know clearly what you're going to do, but all of a sudden the music takes hold of you and whips you around the room and throws you around both, you know, psychologically and physically and musically, until at the end you're drained, but thank goodness you've finished the album. And I think the same happens with a tour, that you go into the tour thinking this is going to be a piece of cake, this is going to be fun, and then within a week you're panicking because the show isn't the way you thought it should be. So eventually within a 2-week, 3-week period the show will become great, and then we'll be able to survive on tour for a year. But there's always that feeling in the back of your mind, maybe this isn't the tour we're going to finish. I don't know why, but there's something inside that says no, you know, Yes is bigger than all of you, so get on with it.
That's ehobbies.com.
Yes' Rick Wakeman.
When Big Generator was finished, John decided that it wasn't really going musically the direction that he felt. I mean, good as it was and all those sort of things, and as much as he enjoyed working with Trevor and Billy, he just felt that there was other sorts of music that he wanted to explore and do.
John Anderson.
Spent 2 years making Big Generator album, went straight on tour, and was physically, mentally and spiritually not happening. So I moved on, I went to Greece. And then I hooked up with Steve and Rick and Bill, thinking, well, let's see what they can do,
What they all did was come up with a new album. But of course, without the bass playing of Chris Squire, the band could not be called Yes. So instead, they hung out their shingles as Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. Once again, here's Rick.
So the thing that worries me is that can we work together again? There's quite a legend that's grown up about what we did together during the Fragile and Close to the Edge days. And it's almost got out of hand. It's grown. I mean, I've heard stories that we played on the stages that were bigger than the auditoriums, that we had lighting rigs that encompassed the whole audience. I've heard tales that I was on stage with 100 keyboards. Things grow up, which are all harmless. They're all good fun. But, can you live up to what people in their almost imaginations, expect? And the same musically.
Brother of Mine from the self-titled Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe in 1989.
I think there was a time when there were so many people that I was involved in under the banner of Yes that it seemed logical one day to do a show. I didn't even think about doing an album or a tour. The idea was to do a show somewhere, just for posterity.
John got his wish when in 1991 the two factions of Yes teamed up and recorded Union. Here's Chris Squire.
The new album is basically partly Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe, and partly what Trevor and myself and Tony and Alan have been working on. It's a strange, as I said, it's a strange concept, this album, because actually I don't play bass on their tracks because they were already halfway through making their album when the idea came up to do this tour, and I suggested, well, why don't we try and integrate then, some of our music onto this album so that the tour has an album that sort of supports it as to relate to what we're doing. And so it ended up that I actually went and sang some harmonies and stuff on some of their tracks that were virtually already finished, and then John came and sang on things that I've been working on and Trevor have been working on. And so it's a very different kind of album, and it's got quite a broad selection of music on it, actually. There are very many different styles on it.
Lift Me Up from Union. John Anderson cuts through the crap.
One of the things that has passed a lot of people by is the fact that we make music for music's sake.
Next on Up Close. Please contact us if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments regarding Up Close. We'd love to hear from you. Our address is upclose@jonesradio.com. We'll be right back. Up Close is brought to you by the United States Army. Be all you can be.
There are many good reasons to consider the Army, and now there's one more. Because right now, the Army is offering the biggest enlistment bonus ever, as much as $20,000, plus up to $50,000 for college through the Montgomery GI Bill and Army College.
I'm Dan Neer. Part 3 of the Jones Radio Network's Up Close continues now with the marauding band of Yeslings plundering Chris Squire's private stash of songs. What exactly had happened? Well, Chris Squire's experiment had been put on the back Bunsen burner while yet another version of Yes headed into the studio. Here's Chris.
The title song, Open Your Eyes, was on the Chris Squire Experiment album, and also so was Man in the Moon as well. A lot of people think a lot more than that came from the Chris Squire Experiment, but it's just those two tracks. And of course now I don't have a solo album anymore because it's been pillaged. It was all ready to go. Now the two of the tracks are on the Yes album, and I've got to find 2 more tracks from my solo album, which I've been trying to do a follow-up for since 1974.
But Yes is your baby.
though. I mean, it's like, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. I mean, I'm glad. Obviously, the songs are going to get more exposure under the Yes banner anyway.
You got a great imagination.
It's so important to decide why you make music. I was thinking about this just yesterday, that one of the things that has passed a lot of people by is the fact that we make music for music's sake. We get caught up in the whole, well, are you trying to make a commercial album? Are you trying to make a commercial song? Everything you do, you hope is commercial. To what extent are you willing to go to commercial? It's a foregone conclusion that you've got to be, I would think, you've got to be in your early 20s, mid-20s to know what is popular, what is commercial, what you're willing to do for commerciality, what you're willing to do visually. It's become a very visual pop scene. Yeah. It isn't as musical as it was, say, in the 60s and the early 70s. It has lost that musical ground, but it's gained a lot of visual ground as well.
Not a lot is missing, every ounce of treasure found. And I believe that everyone should get what they're allowed. Suspected, I believe that.
Yes, alive and well with To Be Alive, Hep Yada from The Ladder.
It's our Who track. It's a little bit hooey.
That's next on part 3 of the Jones Radio Network's Up Close.
I wanted to see the world, so I figured the Navy would be the best place to do that.
Went to Sweden,
Korea, Japan,
Iceland, Greenland.
when you're pulling into port.
It's our Who track. It's a little bit hooey.
How about the lyrics to Face to Face?
John wanted to write all of the lyrics on this album. It was something he felt like he really wanted to do. So, although, you know, others of us in the band also write lyrics, we said, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was very concerned about doing the lyrics, because I didn't do the lyrics on the last album, the Open Your Eyes. That was Chris and Billy doing a sort of interpretation of what Yes lyrics should be and so on at that time. And I followed through with it, hoping that it was the right way, because, you know, in some ways you work with different coordinations of Yes, and you hope that they understand what's happening. I spent a lot of time working with Trevor Rabin, hoping he knew what was Yes music, but eventually realizing the real true Yes music is when we're all in the room together, being positive, and from a lyrical standpoint, just let me get on with the lyrics, I'll figure it out.
Here we are, trying to mend all the broken.
From Yes's latest CD, The Ladder, that was Face to Face. John Anderson.
I'm just happy that I'm still making music, and I'm discovering things all the time about my career. And working with the musicians of Yes is like a school, and you go through a lot of emotion, and you find out a lot about yourself by being with these guys, because A, they're very talented, and B, we're all a bit frail, you know, we're all a bit human, you know, and we're all very human people, and people who met us start to understand us a little bit more, and when they see us on stage, they certainly understand that we're just guys making music.
We'd like to thank Laurie Dunham and Suzanne Pearl of Beyond Records. Part 3 of Yes Up Close was produced in New York by the Jones Radio Network, a division of Jones International Networks. The producers are David Bales and me, Dan Neer, assisted by J.B. Moorhead. The executive producers are Ron Hartenbaum and Gary Schoenfeld. Up Close is distributed on compact disc and copyrighted 2000. All rights reserved. No portion may be used without the written permission of the producers. The producers would also like to hear any comments you have about this program, so please drop us a line at upclose@jonesradio.com. Join us next time on this station as we present more of the best in rock. Up Close. Don't miss it. Hi, I'm Dan Neer, and this is John Anderson of Yes.
It's a very complex band that's made up of 5 very individual people. and musically we're still fighting.
We'll delve into the complexity and longevity of this unique band when the Jones Radio Network presents Part 3 of Yes, Up Close.